So how about we just try this all over again? Just when will the Spurs losing streak end?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, this is Hot Rod.
And I'm RC from the Cybertron Springs.
And you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio. Appreciate you making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Hey, we're part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Find all our shows, not only Locked On Spurs, on YouTube, just wherever you get your favorite podcast. And this episode is brought to you by Game Time. You want to go check out gametime.co. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Hey, the Spurs don't play for another couple more days. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go over some more YouTube fan comments that have been left on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Got a couple of them. Then we're going to bring in our guest, Rudy Campos. Yes, Rudy's making another appearance. Why? Because Mike Jimenez was scheduled to come on today. Don't worry, he did not big time me. No, it was just a massive scheduling conflict. He could not make it, and the time proposed, it was just a bad timing. But he will be on later this week, so Rudy Campos is filling in for him. But because it was kind of a last-minute thing, Rudy could only do audio. So the next following portions of this show will be only audio only. But yeah, and we're also going to be discussing with Rudy about trying that game again. Just when will the Spurs snap their losing streak? We're going to try one more time, look ahead at the next 4 or 5 games, try to predict when the losing streak will end. And then we're going to play another game. Can we find anything as far as a measure of improvement during the losing streak? Is there something there? Believe it or not, we found a few things that might sit well with you, Spurs fans. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. But let's look at some fan comments. The YouTube Locked On Spurs fan page has just been... so many people are just leaving comments. There's so many to sift through, but let's get going here. This is from July. No, yeah, that's the name of the person, July 26. So thank you, July 26, for leaving a comment. He said, nah, we're tanking for either Sarr or Collier. Yes, we need a PG point guard, but Sarr and Victor could be the next Twin Towers 2.0. Yeah, if I had to roll the dice, I think the Spurs will likely target a point guard in the draft. And sure, Sarr and Wemby would be a great 1-2 punch in the paint. But considering the Spurs re-upped Zach Collins, I know a lot of Spurs fans are kind of 50-50 on him. But the point is, they invested the contract with Collins. And, of course, there's Bassie. And I think they're going to roll the dice with those guys. I think if they go into the draft, they'll likely look at guards, point guards. And who knows, maybe Sohan will turn the corner soon. We don't know about that. But the point is that I think if they're going to dive into the draft, you would believe point guard will be at the top of their list. So that's something to keep an eye on. How will the Spurs approach the offseason? Look, we still got so many months ahead of us in this long Spurs season. So who knows? There's the trade deadline. Maybe they'll flip for a point guard. And then July 26th, then maybe what you're saying is them targeting Sarr or Collier, can work. But or at least Sarr, that is. So we'll see. There's so many variables between now and the draft. Like I said, there was the trade deadline. There's, what if a player wants to be bought out, or what if, something happens internally and they got to flip somebody. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But that's a great comment. July 26th. I appreciate it. Who is up next on the Locked On Spurs YouTube fan page? Up next is James Macias. He commented, "It's okay. We diehard Spurs fans knew this would happen." Talking about the bad start. Just keep supporting our Spurs. Well, James, that's a great positive outlook. Yes, I know the season to the start of the season that is rough. 3 wins and a lot of L's. But James, I think that's exactly maybe where Spurs fans' head should be. Look, I get those that want to criticize the front office and the coaching and the rotations and the player. You're perfectly allowed to do that. You are a fan. You pay a lot of money, whether that's going to the games, league pass, merchandise, have at it. But, there is a segment of Spurs fans that, like James, that are still keeping, looking at the glass half full and not half empty. And I think for me personally, I think that's probably the best way to cope with what's going on with the Spurs right now. Just try to look at the positives, look at little steps that the individual players are making as far as development. Look, recently the Spurs are getting a lot more competitive. They're not getting blown out as we saw, during this losing streak earlier in it. But so there's a sign of improvement. And I'm glad James mentioned that because that's exactly what we're going to talk about up next. So appreciate that, James. Keep that positive vibe going, James. I think, send some of that good energy to Spurs fans that are just dealing with it right now. And trust me, there's a lot of Spurs fans that are upset right now. And some Spurs fans already checked out of the season. It's that bad. But James, keep being positive. We need a lot of positivity in today's world and today's life. So good job, James. Thanks for the comment. All right, coming up next, we have Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Once again, because he filled in last second due to a scheduling conflict with Mike Jimenez. He can only do audio only. So the next portions of Locked On Spurs is just audio. But hey, we appreciate you making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. So coming up next is going to be Rudy Campos.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
But first, I want to talk to you about FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot only on FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. You heard that right. That's $150 if your team wins. So you've been thinking about joining FanDuel. Now's the time to do it. Look, there's no better time to get on the action than right now. NFL season fully underway. NBA season starting to get going. There's so many things you can join on with FanDuel, and you can have fun with that app. I have it. You should get it too. So look, that app is easy to use. You can use a wide range of betting options from spreads, player props, over and unders, and so much more. Look, go get it. Your Spurs are in action. The Dallas Cowboys are in action. Your Houston Texans are in action. Your favorite NFL team is playing right now. So if you want to have fun with the NFL and the favorite team that you like, you got to download FanDuel right now. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and start getting ready because the NFL season is winding down, and the playoff intention, the heating up is going to start. So you're going to have a lot of fun times with the FanDuel app. So again, visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and keep on cheering on the NFL season. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube. Subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs, finally joined by Rudy Campos of Sweep the League, making his back-to-back appearance. Yeah, he's like the Spurs on a back-to-back, but he always comes out winning though, right, Rudy?
100%, man, 100%. I'm all about winning, and just like Al Davis from the Raiders said, just win, baby, win.
Just win, baby, win. Yeah, make sure to follow my next at Sweep the League. And for those of y'all wondering why we had a schedule conflict, me and Mike Jimenez. Mike Jimenez will be on later on this week. No, he did not big time me, Rudy. It was just a scheduling conflict that we had. That's all. But Mike Jimenez will be back. That's why Rudy Campos is filling in once again. I mean, he is the designated sixth man for Locked On Spurs. So we tapped on his services once again. What are we talking about with Rudy? We're going to be just trying to play that game again. Hopefully it is not a repetitive game here on Locked On Spurs. When will the losing streak end? We're going to look at the calendar and try to figure out what date, game, opponent that will be. And then we're going to put a challenge on the table for Rudy. Can he think of one positive thing coming out of the 14-game losing streak right here on Locked On Spurs? Rudy, we know you are pressed for time, so we're going to push through this pretty fast. And again, we thank you for coming off the bench here. So Spurs, 14 games, L's just left and right are flying for the Spurs season. But let's take a look at their schedule, and it doesn't get any easier, Rudy. They got Minnesota up next. Hopefully this long break will help them maybe get a W, but I don't think so. Minnesota is a tough squad. You're looking at the next. We'll go 5 deep. How's that? So we're going to go with the Wolves, Bulls, Rockets, Lakers. When do you see this losing streak end?
So looking at the streak, being that it's 14 games, I think when we talked last, I was mentioning the Bulls game. That's kind of where I see that streak possibly ending, only because of all the turmoil going on with Chicago. I mean, you got the issues with Zach LaVine out with the team, and not really just wanting to be there. DeMar DeRozan now on the trade block. There's 2 places that he's being talked about going. So the Bulls are in a tailspin. This is the best time for the Spurs to take advantage of a team like that, get that W, get back in the win column. Yeah, it's not going to make a huge difference in the win column for them, but hey, a W does feel good, especially around the Christmas holiday breaks, trying to get that good feeling going again, going into the new year, 2024. That's where I think it happens. Outside of that, Jeff, if they don't beat the Bulls, oh, God, can we push 20 in a row?
Good Lord. I'll give you my prediction in a bit, but I feel like the Spurs are the slump buster for the Bulls. Does that make sense? Like that,
Yeah.
the Bulls, although they're free falling a bit, but they still have that talent. They still have Levine. They still have DeMar. They have Vucevic. They have enough to beat the Spurs despite their turmoil right now. And if they want to try to get a W, I think if you're the Bulls, you're circling the Spurs just as much as the Spurs are circling Chicago as a game to beat and snap their losing skid. It's just tough, man. Minnesota next. Bulls is the open one where maybe they can win. I was gonna go with the Rockets, but you got Sengun playing like an all-star right now. They're kind of rolling. They got Van Vliet, who historically plays really well against the Spurs. Dylan Brooks is a pest. Jesus. And then you got the Lakers, as mentioned, in the back-to-back set. Lakers in San Antonio. I'm going to go with your pick. I'm going to go with the Bulls. But my wild card, like where did this come from kind of win, would be that first Lakers game in San Antonio on the 13th. I think that is my wild card. If it doesn't happen against the Bulls, it'll likely happen against the Lakers. What is the other team you think it could happen against if we're looking at the next 4 or 5 games? If you want to go beyond that, go ahead. Because they got, after that back-to-back set, then they got the Pelicans next. So that's not fun.
Yeah, I don't see the Pelicans at all. I kind of would say this. The Lakers game is kind of a tricky one, only because that could be a game, and you gotta forgive me. I'm not sure if it's nationally televised, but that could be a game where we see Darvin Ham rest possibly LeBron and Anthony Davis. Give them
it
the
is a
night
national
off.
game, by the way. Just a heads up, it's on NBA TV.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then that's going to affect that. So that would have been the only game that I figured maybe they would be able to swing it because maybe you get some rest somewhere in there. Not only that, maybe LeBron does take a rest. Who knows? I mean, it could be that game. But honestly, Jeff, there's really no game I can point to that says I feel comfortable that they could end that losing streak if it's not the Bulls.
Yeah, I'm not even comfortable picking the Bulls as well. Like I said, they have that enough talent. Levine goes off, forget about it. It's over. If DeMar wants to go ballistic against his former club, sure. Vucevic, probably, drooling at going against the rookie Wemby. But of course, Wemby's been holding his own versus some of the best in the league. So maybe that's a wash. But what about the Rockets? Do you think that could be another wild card game?
So the Rockets, that's one of those teams where you're like, okay, this is probably going to be a good win for the Spurs, good task. It's going to be good. But remember, the Rockets are in, I can't believe I'm saying this, but the Rockets are technically in playoff contention. I mean, they are playing some ball right now. You're talking about Sengun, who's playing at an all-star level.
And to think Sengun was on the board when the Spurs were going to pick, and they went with Primo. Sengun was available. He was available, and they passed on him.
I will say this, and, it may rile up some Spurs fans, but a team that was, I would say, always getting an A when it came to draft picks seems to draft better in the later rounds than they have in the lottery lately. Yeah. And that's kind of a fall from grace for the San Antonio Spurs, and it's terrible, but you're right. Sengun was there. There's a lot of other players that were there that could benefit the Spurs, but we can't forget the Rockets have Jabari Smith Jr. as well. He's been playing really, really well. They've got a lot of young talent, and the biggest thing they have is they have a coach that is a really good coach of the league, Ime Udoka. So he knows the Spurs system better than anybody else, as he was a part of the coaching staff for many, many years with Pop. So I don't look at the Rockets as, a team that the Spurs can really contend with. But the problem, too, Jeff, is that the Spurs contend with these teams for the first half, maybe 3 quarters, and then it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, you look at just beyond the games, the sample that we're looking at. So we mentioned the Wolves up next, and the Bulls, the Rockets in the first Lakers game. But then they played the Lakers again on at home, December 15th. Then they mentioned the Pelicans. Oh, by the way, then they go to Milwaukee to play against the Bucks. And then they got the Mavericks.
20 games. 20-game losing streak. It's possible.
Yeah, and then they go play the Bulls in between the Bucks on December 21st. So you look at the Bulls game; those are the two winnable games. Looking ahead, but you saw what the Mavericks did recently. I mean, they went on a 30-0 run against OKC, and the Mavericks are clicking. So it's rough. This start to the season, it's just been the calendar hasn't helped the Spurs. Getting injuries to Devin Vassell didn't help. Wemby is kind of coming along now, so that's a plus. But you got Keldon, who's been up and down. Sohan adjusting to the point guard spot. It's just a bad mix right now, Rudy. Can you see? Would you be surprised if we're just looking at the sample size of the next 5 games, and then we pass that 5th game, December 13th against the Lakers, and we're on Friday, December 15th of the 2nd game of the Lakers set? Would you be surprised if they're still losing?
No, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
So if we go that route, they could be, a 14 right now? So 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 game losing skid. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we talk so much about the beginning of the season schedule being so rough, and maybe like 5 winnable games total in that first part of the season. You're experiencing it. And again, to see a 19-game losing streak from the San Antonio Spurs, is it possible? Yeah, I don't even think it's 50-50. I think it's more like, closer to 55, 60-40 type stuff. I mean, it's very likely they've got to get that Bulls win, in my opinion, because if not, it's going to be a massive losing streak.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think about it. This could be another Hawks situation. Remember that Hawks game in San Antonio? That was the game to get back on the winning track, and they blew that. You had, Trae Young just go ballistic on the Spurs late in the game. DeJounte Murray knocking down shots. Spurs weren't helping themselves either, turning the ball over late in the game. But to give up 137, that's not. Oh, and then when they finally correct their third quarter woes, okay, fine, they scored 30 plus in the third, but then they allowed Atlanta 30 plus in the third. So that didn't help. That was a wash. So, so we're so as of now, we're comfortable saying 14. We're in the 14 game losing 14, 15. So maybe it goes one more L and then a win. So maybe the 15 winning streak. But Rudy, is it bad that I think that I can see them losing to the Bulls?
It's not bad. I really think that the turmoil going on in Chicago is good enough for the Spurs to get a W. But you're right. I mean, talent does outweigh everything. And the Bulls, they are very talented. So it's possible.
He is Rudy Campos of Sweep the League, filling in for Mike Jimenez, who is just basically we couldn't get things going. Just a bad conflict today, but Mike Jimenez will be back later this week. So Rudy Campos is doing double duty right here on Locked On Spurs. When we get back, we're going to try another game. Can we pick just one positive thing from this losing skid? That's coming up next on Locked On Spurs.
Hey, this is Chris Sabat, and you're listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
I want to talk to you about GameTime.co. Look, if you don't want to worry about getting the tickets to your next event, you want to go to GameTime right now. So, yeah, you shouldn't have to worry about that when you're buying tickets. GameTime is the fast and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from receipts, their best price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Flash deals, zone deals, easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Concert, playoff games, views from your seats, lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. Game Time has you covered. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know what you're getting. That is a great deal without the hidden fees. Buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Zone deals. You pick the section and Game Time picks the seats for an average of 18% savings. The game time guarantee means that you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section in a row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Also want to talk about Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. If you're in San Antonio, you want to go to 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive. That's in the 281 to 1604 area. They're open every day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go get your coffee fix right now, everybody. They have a daily selection, a wide variety of drinks. They have an extensive menu. The list goes on and how many things you can get at Mudslingers, including the Mudslinger signature drink, the Red Bull infused Lightning Bolt series, even specialty drinks like the Sub-Zero, that's a hat tip for UTSA's Frank Harris. Also the Alien, you know who that's about. That's Victor Wembanyama, drink made in his honor, and so much more. Even the OG OJ, that's the old Orange Julius, recreated only at Mudslingers Drive-Thru Coffee. Go there right now. Over 300 5-star reviews cannot be wrong. You can find them on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. The list goes on and on. They are on social media at Mudslingers, SATX, all one word. The friendly staff, they are a proud local sponsor of Locked On Spurs and a proud community member helping San Antonio each and every day. 2404 Thousand Oaks Drive, open every day from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Go there right now. Go to Mudslingers, everybody. Life is too short for bland coffee. And we're back right here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Make sure to follow him on X at Sweep the League. He'll talk about his show shortly, and he is filling in for Mike Jimenez, who was scheduled to come on today, but due to a schedule conflict, he could not make it. So, Rudy, by the way, I heard everything's going fine right now. You're working on solving the world's food problems, food shortages. I heard you're working on some sort of peace treaties throughout the world. I mean, you're a man of many talents, Rudy.
I am. The food shortage part is definitely coming along. Like I've mentioned before, my diet's helped a lot, so I'm not eating everything like Kirby and Dreamland. So I'm definitely not. But the world peace, it's getting there. It's getting there little by little. I was able to make peace between me and neighbors, so that's good.
That's a start. That's a start. We'll take it. We are talking all things silver and black right here on Locked On Spurs. Once again, everybody, Rudy is on a time crunch right now, so we're gonna let him go shortly. But hey, Rudy, you look at the Spurs, a lot of L's just mounting, one after another after another. I'm looking at the schedule right now. Just all I just see down is just L. The last win for your Spurs was on November 2nd at Phoenix. That was the last time the Spurs won. It's been more than a full calendar year. Full month, excuse me. A full month since the Spurs have not won a game. It's been that long, everybody. But despite the woes, we're going to try to figure out if there's one thing positive we can take from the losing streak. Rudy, you are the guest. Take it away. If there's one thing you can say, you know what, this brings a smile to my face, what would that be?
I love when I come on, I have to give the positivity on bad teams, and that's like, man, that's tough. But, I can be a sarcastic, guy and just be like, hey, the only positive is their draft status goes up in the lottery. So they're going to be closer to the top three, but there's not very much talent in the top three that you would want to tank for. So honestly, I think the only positive that I can continue to see is the fact that we're seeing Wembanyama just improve little by little, and it's not leaps and bounds. It's little by little, and I'm liking what I'm seeing. I think he has a lot more that needs to be adjusted on the in the rotation. I mean, he needs to find his position on the court. Coaching staff needs to do a better job at putting him in the right position. But I think the positive that I see is seeing that he's a statistical leader in a lot of these rookie categories, and he's already shown his defensive presence, which is much needed in San Antonio. So that's the positive I see is Victor just improving, not leaps and bounds, but little by little. And that's outside of that, man. I don't know. Maybe the prices at the Frost Center came down a little bit. I have no idea.
Okay, well, there you go. That's something there. Yes. That'll
Hey, the
work.
Rock open, so that's another positive thing.
I'll take that. I'll take prices going down, more affordable. Speaking of Jimenez, he told me recently that, for those who don't know, Mike Jimenez has his own business and he has to take clients out. So he thought about taking clients out to a game and he looked at suites. Did you know some suites for certain games are going as low as $90?
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a ticket that people are just not going right now because the losses are mounting up. Now, it could be many things, maybe the time of the year because it's Christmas, people are not going, they're saving money for presents and whatever. But yeah, they're starting to drop a bit. So,
You mean to tell me San Antonio Mission suites are more expensive than Spurs suites right now?
Unbelievable.
Kind of bad.
Exactly. But hey, yeah, I mean, that is a big positive, though, is Wembanyama just really coming into his own. You're looking at what he's done in the last few games. So we'll look at let's take a look at his last. You want to go 3 or last 5, Rudy? You pick.
Let's go 5. We'll go 5.
Let's go 5. Okay, so we'll look at his last 5. 21.8 points per game, 11.8 rebounds, 2.8 assists, 2.5 steals, 3.2 blocks. Turnovers still a little high at 3.3, and 9.3 defensive rebounds and 2.5 offensive rebounds. He's shooting 48% from the field overall and 95% from the free throw line. So good on him on that. Yeah, he is the biggest bright spot in this losing streak. He's finally coming along. It's just a shame that a lot of those big nights that he has get wasted. I mean, wasted just because they lost. So yeah, it's a shame. All right, my turn. He took the obvious one, which I was going to go with the Wemby, but I'm going to go with the budding leadership of Devin Vassell. So despite the Spurs getting the L versus Atlanta and San Antonio, I noticed something throughout the game. Devin was being very communicative with his teammates, whether he was on the court or on the bench. He was leading huddles, pointing where players should go. So I asked Sohan about that, and he told me that it's another level regarding his team leadership. So the Spurs are 0-5 without Vassell this season. So the value of him, not just statistically, but intangibles such as the leadership, I think that's very, very good in telling how important Vassell could be, or probably is, for this team moving forward with Victor. Excuse me. So that has been a big positive for me. Just finally seeing Devin Vassell's leadership in this, the losing streak. I guess this is kind of like it's not a home run pick. It's more like maybe a double. And if you're going to use MLB terms, they finally solved the third quarter woes, but their defense is still shoddy. They finally got over that hump of scoring in the third period, as we saw versus Atlanta. They didn't get clobbered. They didn't just go in a offensive drought. They actually were scoring, but again, they gave up 30 plus points to Atlanta. The Spurs scored over 30, so it was a wash. Hopefully, that's a sign of things to come. That they're now not offensively challenged in the third, and they can move forward and at least stay in games. So we're seeing a lot more competitiveness out of them. I know it's a moral victory, and some people maybe scoff at that. Moral victories, what? But look, they only lost by 2 to Atlanta. They lost only by 12 to Denver. I mean, sure, maybe it was garbage time, but you look at that Golden State game, they lost only by 6. So they're staying in games. So I'm trying here, Rudy. Those are my positives out of a losing skid. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, just I would say this. Let me use another term here: the maturity of the team. Obviously, I pointed out the biggest aspect was the identity. This team doesn't have an identity yet. We have no idea what exactly we have on the floor, but you see the growth of the youth already with Devin, with Kelvin, with Trey Jones. The guys are growing up in front of us, but them being, them still being, I think, the youngest team in the league, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 22 and a half is the average.
Yeah, it still affects them dramatically, and you see that. It's not so much that they're not talented. It's the experience, the youth. They're young. I mean, and it's going to be a lot more woes when you're young, but I think you're right. One of the positive part is the maturity, the growth of Devin Vassell into a leader. the steps that other guys are taking up on the team. And Sohan, even though he's at a point guard position, which we know is not his natural position, I remember talking to you about it. He is improving on certain aspects of his game. Now, does it make him a better point guard? Not necessarily, but it's making him a better player overall. So just the growth, the maturity of some of these guys on the team adds another benefit, adds another positive to the list here.
Man, we're reaching here, aren't we?
I'm trying.
We are trying, everybody.
I see a win. I see a win. I see a W. I just can't reach it. It's way over there. It's going to take me 2 full tanks of gas to get there, probably.
All right. He is Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. We appreciate him coming off the bench right here on Locked On Spurs for his back-to-back visits here with us. Rudy, tell us about Sweep.
Yeah, so college football season is underway. Well, not underway, but it's coming to an end. You got the bowl season coming up, all the controversies with the whole, Final Four and everything. But nonetheless, come to say a lot of our NFL draft picks and prospects are going to be coming out here pretty soon. So get ready for that, as well as more L talk, I guess, for the Spurs. Hopefully we can talk about some wins here pretty soon, but a lot of short clips coming up here on Super League.
With you too, man. Hopefully we talk about more wins than losses for the Spurs in the coming episodes of Locked On Spurs. Once again, he is Rudy Campos. Follow him on X at Sweep the League. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app, YouTube. So many more options for you. Just basically wherever you get your favorite podcasts, go there. You'll find Locked On Spurs and the rest of the Locked On Podcast Network. We'll be back tomorrow. I believe Brandon Medina is on deck. So we'll be talking about all things silver and black. Once again, right here on Locked On Spurs. But for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.